In this breaking update, I've got new data as a big storm with potent impacts is looking more likely to cause March chaos as it comes to the United States later this week and for the upcoming weekend. Many concerning impacts are expected, and you are likely going to be impacted, so make sure you stick around for the 5-minute overview that I'm about to provide. Without further ado, I want to start this video by overviewing the setup in the atmosphere that this blended guidance is indicating will lead to that huge storm by the time we get to the end of this week. I'm going to go ahead and jump right through the first few days of the week as I covered that in my last update, but the real setup that you need to see, it's starting to show up on your screen right here by the time we go out of our Thursday, March 13th, where we're going to see lots of energy and troughing leading to a storm in the west, and then eventually by this point in time we'll begin to see our storm system likely moving out into the central plains, and the reason for this is very evident on your screen in these colors that you see. Where you see these yellows and oranges from the Mississippi River Valley and plains and points eastbound moving on up all the way into parts of southern Canada, that is an anomalous ridge in the jet stream for March, meaning that the jet stream is being pushed so far north that well above average temperatures will be making their way all the way up to that Canadian border. On the flip side, these blues entering the west indicate a big trough, bringing cooler than average temperatures on down, and whenever you have a big contrast between warmer than average temperatures in the east and well below average temperatures entering the west, that's going to create a battleground zone where you're likely to see a large-scale storm system, and in this case it could be a near record-setting low-pressure system that starts in the plains with severe weather and a blizzard aspect of the system as we come out of Thursday into Friday, and then eventually moving through the Mississippi Valley, points east all the way to the east coast by the time we get through the end of the weekend and into the early part of that following week around Monday, March 17th as the energy slides east. I want to go ahead and now give you an overview of what that storm could look like, looking at some other blended guidance with your GFS ensembles now. Now that you've seen that overview, the atmospheric setup for this storm, let's go ahead and give you a general idea of how the precipitation side of it could look, starting with the beginning of this storm and its origins by the time we go out of our Wednesday, March 12th and into our Thursday, March 13th of 2025, where we're likely going to see this storm making a landfall on the west coast of the U.S. and pushing into some parts of the Sierras of California, into eventually the Mountain West and Rockies, where it looks like as you quickly go up out of the lower elevations where we'll see rain, and then up into the moderate and higher elevations, that's where we're going to be looking at moderate to high rates of snowfall pushing on through, and some of this could be accompanied by some gusty wind as well as we see a tight pressure gradient moving on through. By the time we get out of our Thursday into Friday, that's when the real concerns develop, especially into some parts of the central plains, as low pressure will likely move out of the front range and right on out into the central parts of Nebraska and Kansas. This is taking a similar track to the low that we saw very recently bringing a strong storm across the U.S., but this one could be even more intense with a very strong warm sector and cold front leading to severe weather getting all the way up to the Midwest and stretching all the way back down to the lower Mississippi Valley sometime out of Friday into Saturday. On the flip side, on the wraparound side of this storm, we could be watching a northwest to southeast flow of strong winds with blizzard conditions and heavy snow wrapping around, moving out of parts of the Mountain West and on out into the North Central Plains, including the Dakotas and Nebraska. Keep in mind, Friday into Saturday would be a very windy time out of the plains and into the Mississippi Valley. And this system would not stop there. We could watch more snow eventually expanding east over parts of the upper Midwest as those areas cool down sometime out of Friday night into our Saturday morning, assuming the setup continues to look like it is. And then eventually we continue to watch severe weather and flooding be concerns further east from the Ohio Valley back down to the Mid-South, eventually extending over into the Appalachians and East Coast. It looks like out of Saturday through Saturday night into Sunday would be the higher end confidence time frame for those kinds of impacts there. Gusty winds could also be accompanying this storm even as we go through Sunday and into our Monday as you get closer to the northeastern parts of the U.S. And then eventually it does look like this system will be gone by the time we get out of Monday into Tuesday at the very latest right now. Again, keep in mind that the storm might not end up timing out just like I showed in that overview, but I hope that gives you a general idea of when to possibly expect the worst conditions in your area. Here's proof that this storm continues to look like it is going to be one of the stronger ones that we see possibly throughout the entire year of 2025, and it all comes with this jet stream energy that you can see on screen here, indicated by this blended guidance coming together to show the ferocity this storm could have by the time we get out of Thursday into Friday. This right here that I'm circling is a trough or a dip in the jet stream coming out of parts of the southwest U.S. and then transporting moisture and the ability for severe weather to move all the way on up into the Midwest regions. You can see how that strong energy goes all the way on up with these winds in the atmosphere up to Iowa, into parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, even southern Minnesota. Some of these zones, before we end up seeing some snowfall possibly wrapping back around the end of the system, could start out with severe weather all the way on up to the upper Midwest out of Friday into Saturday as a result of this. That's something to keep an eye on, and keep in mind this is also going to allow some areas down at the surface that don't even see severe weather or rainfall on the Central Plains to end up getting some very high wind conditions as this moves on through, and it doesn't look like the trough would stop there. It would continue moving east, leading to severe weather that could be much further north than you'd expect in mid-March. With that being said, I want to wrap up this video by giving you a look at the custom graphic I've made and the latest information I have right now to overview the storm that's going to make its way out of the west out of March 12th and 13th and then into points eastbound starting March 14th and lasting all the way possibly through our Monday, March 17th as the system gets closer to the east coast. Low pressure will likely move out of parts of Nebraska and the Central Plains all the way on up into the upper Midwest, bringing a big field of high winds that will eventually move eastbound. I'll talk more about those specific impacts in future videos, but for now, the main thing that I want to focus on is the areas that have the highest chance of severe weather that can already be pinpointed. That's going to be exiting the plains into parts of the Mississippi Valley as we come through Friday and Friday night. Eventually, some parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, the mid-south over into the Ohio Valley could see some of that severe weather sometime out of Friday night into our Saturday if current guidance holds. Areas further east could also see very intense impacts. There's just more questions on that, and that's why I want to hold off on highlighting orange there for now. But I can tell you for sure we could also see that blizzard, and it's looking more and more likely for that into the north central plains. So many areas will see major impacts, and I want you to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future updates. I'll catch you right here next time at One Nation Weather.